Brother, how long has it been? How long has it been that you have been looking for a solution to an addiction to pornography and not found one? How long has it been since you get up every Sunday morning, put on your white shirt and your tie, get your family all gussied up and your wife, your beautiful wife, ready? You go to church, you walk in the door, you put a smile on your face, you grab people by the hand, shake their hand, and you pretend that everything's okay. And then you sit in the pew. And as the sacrament comes, you're sitting there waiting for it, knowing that everything's not. Knowing that just the night before, or maybe the night before that, or maybe the night before that, you were awake while your wife and kids were asleep. You had your smartphone in your hand, you were sitting in the bathroom masturbating while you were watching some woman that you don't know have sex with another man online. Or maybe that wasn't you. Maybe you were in your office in front of your computer screen and you were masturbating in your pants because you didn't want anyone else to walk in and catch you in the act. Anyone to walk in and catch you in the lies that you were trying to tell yourself, pretending that this wasn't really so. That's not really pornography. I clicked on that on accident. I didn't go looking for that specifically. I got it. I'm in control. This isn't really masturbation. I'm not doing that when the fact is you were. You were. And with cold, jittering fingers, you clicked that mouse button over and over and over, or you tapped your phone screen over and over and over again, systematically destroying everything that you hold dear in this life. We're talking about your wife, your connection to God, and especially your kids. But see, brother, it doesn't really matter if this was you, or you were just the guy who whipped out his smartphone at night for 10 minutes after his wife had gone to bed, just to satisfy your cravings to be wanted and desired in this life. Because either way, you're a hypocrite and a liar. And I get it, because for 18 years, so was I. Over half of my life, I lied to everyone. Because I couldn't stand the guilt and the shame of knowing that my wife and my family, they might make it to heaven. They might make it to the celestial kingdom, but they might make it without a father. I tried to pretend that everything was okay, that I could handle my stuff, and that it would get better over time, or that maybe when the kids grew up and they got out of the house, right then there I would be, and I would be able to make everything better again. That sometime later in my life we could fix this. But in reality, on the inside, I was terrified. Terrified because I didn't know if it would ever stop. Terrified that even if it did stop, it would come back. I felt broken. I felt worthless and completely beyond repair. You see, many of the men that I've worked with who've gotten to this place at this point in time in their life, they just give up or they check out. They accept I'm an addict and that's who I am and that's how I live my life. And I'll never get better. And I'll be like Morianton in the Book of Mormon, who does justice to his wife and his family, or to his kingdom and his people, and not to himself. Or they want to just end their life. And I can't tell you the number of nights that I fell asleep weeping on my pillow, praying to Heavenly Father to give me the courage and the power to end my life. And thankfully, and fortunately for myself and for my wife and my kids, God never answered that prayer with ease. Now, brother, I don't know where you are on your journey. I really don't. But before you give up, before you check out, all I want you to do is wait, stop. Hear me out. I'm not asking you to expose yourself. I'm just asking you to listen, to look at me and listen. I'm a man. I'm a member of the church. I love my wife and my kids. I'm committed to my beliefs. I'm a man just like you. And even though pornography and masturbation and addiction to those things plagued my life for nearly 2 decades, I stand before you right now as a free man. At the time we're recording this, pornography has been out of my life for over 4 years. I have no desire for it. And that doesn't mean it doesn't show up. That doesn't mean I never see it. It's everywhere. You know that. I know that. Our society is becoming built around it. And I'm telling you now that I am free and have the power to not be bothered by it or affected by it. And you can have that power too. So what I'm going to do in this video here is help you understand some things about your addiction and the lies you've been telling yourself that you're going to need to experience if you want that kind of experience of freedom. If you really want to be free and to experience the kind of connection, deep, intimate connection with your wife, the kind of clear revelation and direction from God that you want, and the kind of presence that you can have with your children as their father, leading them through this world that has its fair share of troubles. So I'm going to ask you to watch all the way through to the end. And if some point in the middle or at the end you feel compelled, I would love to have a one-on-one conversation with you. Now, I'm not your bishop, I'm not your stake president, I'm not in any way affiliated with your membership in the church. I don't know you, I cannot affect any part of your life. All I am is a brother, someone who's been through this, who's offering and extending a hand to you to give you the opportunity to learn a little bit more about how I went through the process of healing completely from addiction to pornography, being free from the fear of it returning, and how I might be able to help you experience the same thing. Now, in order to do that, we're going to have to go back to the night in 2012 when my wife almost left me. You see, on that night, we had been asleep in bed in this tiny little loft in our home. Tiny loft because I didn't have the money. I wasn't bringing in the bacon, so to speak, for our family. So all our kids slept in the master bedroom, all 4 sons with one little one that we were just barely going to have a girl, that she was on the way. And we were sleeping in the little attic loft there, the blue light coming through the skylights. It was dark and it was dim, and I had just tried to have a really intimate sexual experience with my wife. In the middle of it, I was trying to relive all the fantasies that I'd seen from porn stars all throughout the years. I was trying to make my wife behave like them and moan like them and all that other stuff that you and I try to get our wives to do so that we can be satisfied, because we think that's the way to connection when it isn't. And of course, our wives don't want to play that role. It's not them. They don't want to be compared to anybody else, and she didn't either. And so afterward, as I lay there in bed, both seething in frustration and anger at my wife, how dare she? Like, why can't she just satisfy me? But at the same time, just covered in guilt at everything that I had done and had continued to do and was still doing in my head and wasn't free from. That night I got up and I came fully clean to my wife and I told her everything. Now that doesn't mean that she didn't know that I was dealing with pornography. She'd known it for years. And she had decided to stay. That doesn't mean she didn't know that masturbation was involved. She did. And she had decided to stay despite the hurt and the betrayal and the pain that put her through. Because she decided to stay because she had assumed that as long as another real living woman wasn't involved, that we could work this out. But see, that night was the night I told her that I had deliberately sought out a live chat room. Sought out another living, breathing woman to satisfy my desires instead of going to the woman that I had promised to go to in my covenants in the temple. And as she took that in, and as she looked at me with those stone-cold eyes and that mask of pain, all she did was say to me, I don't know what to do. I'm not even sure I'm going to stay. She got up and she left. That night, on top of all the guilt and the shame that I couldn't already handle, was the first night that I began to see the ramifications of my decisions. It was the first night that I stared down the barrel of a gun that told me that my wife might leave and take my 4 children, take the little one that was on the way, and I might never really be able to engage with that little girl, the first girl that was going to be in our family. It was the first time I'd even thought about that. Because our church teaches that family is first, that we don't divorce. Divorce isn't an option. and that you should fight for your family. So I had just assumed that my wife would stay no matter what, and that we'd have our struggles or whatever, and then we would die and we'd figure things out. But now, this for the first time in my life, I had to actually face the possibility that she wasn't going to stick around if I was going to behave like this. So as I sat there and this anguish washed over me like a freight train, I suddenly realized what I was doing. Now see, that night I didn't even know the full extent of what I was doing. That night, I didn't see that I had been so wrapped up in my own emotions and my own guilt and my own shame and my own thoughts that I had essentially turned my wife for years into a single mother who had to raise these kids and keep things together in the home. And even when Dad was there, he was checked out a lot of the time. She used to call me a firecracker. Those things that are fun to play with, but you never know when they're going to go off and put an eye out. And while she was doing that and starting to micromanage everything just so she had control over something because she couldn't control me, I was out taking the hard-earned money that I had brought in from the business and spending it trying to solve my addiction to pornography by completely avoiding it. I was traveling the world. I was traveling all around the country, looking for answers in meditation and mindfulness, looking for answers in healing arts of a variety of different kinds, certifying in them, training in them, trying to get it to work on me, working with martial arts and adventures and experiences and coaches and mentors and trainers, trying to wrap my head around this problem, hoping that it would be like a surgery or a pill, and if I could just take this problem out, the rest of my life would be okay. And $50,000 later, I had driven myself, my business, and my family into bankruptcy. Not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually as well. Consider what might have happened if I had taken that money and invested in my family. But I didn't even see the amount of time that I had missed. All the moments when my kids took their first step, or played in the playground, or discovered something new that I had to watch on video because I wasn't there for them. I was busy elsewhere. In mind, in body, and in spirit a lot of the times. Now see, I used to think that that my kids didn't really understand what was going on. I used to actually think, and I didn't realize that night how much damage I'd been doing to them, not just by being absent, but by being there as the man that I was. I remember one night sitting down on the couch, had my laptop in hand. It wasn't at night, it was in the middle of the day, and I was there. I was supposed to be working, and so I had my laptop out, working when I was really engaged in a pornographic scene on the screen. Watching people I didn't know, racial couples, all kinds of other stuff. You know, getting involved in it, trying to satisfy my curiosity by going further and further down the stupid rabbit hole. And on the other side of the room was my beautiful wife sitting on the couch. And my kids were playing in front of me. And I was craving a hit so badly. I was trying to satisfy myself so much that I was willing to sacrifice them and sacrifice their eyes to the possibility of seeing what I was looking at. And the only thing I was paying attention to them with was that small part of my brain that was the alarm part. So that if they got too close, or they started to peek over and started to get curious about what I was doing, I could close the window or turn the laptop or close the screen. One time my son actually saw it. I simply told him, wow, that was pornographic. That's pornography. That was a naked lady. Yeah, we don't look at those. That's why I closed the screen. I was a liar. All the way through. And I used to think that they were too young, that they didn't understand, that they didn't feel what was going on. And I was so messed up. You and I both know that we know when our wives feel good, we know when they feel bad. They don't even have to be in the room. Who they are emanates out through the whole house. My kids know when I'm upset, they know when I'm sad, they know when I'm happy, they know when I'm giddy, they know when I think they're stupid. They know. What makes me think, as a dad, that I could be the dad in the shower, masturbating, so craving the physical pleasure of ejaculation, that they didn't feel that when they're on the other side of the door, knocking on the door, wondering why it's taking so long. I wrecked my kids. To this day, we are still working with the ramifications of my decisions. My oldest son, 11 years old now, got the brunt of it for so much of his life, of the way that I behaved around him, that now he easily goes into the place of being a victim. And we're still working with him on that. My second son, beautiful young man. He didn't become a victim, he lashed out in anger. And it took us some time before we figured out the tools to help him recover from what I had done to him. And my third son, can't even speak. When he gets hurt or he feels ashamed or guilty, he just clams up. And I did that to him. But see, that night in 2012, I didn't see any of this. All I saw for the first time was the possibility of losing them and not being a part of their life for the next few years. And losing my wife too. And being left with a broken business and a relationship with God that was on the rocks. To possibly live the rest of my life alone. And that scared me enough to get me going on the path to freedom. Until this day, when I can experience deep, intimate sexual connection with my wife. Powerful conversations and open conversations about how I feel and who I am. We can move with our kids together and help them and lead them through life. And I can play with them and be with them without shame, without guilt, and without anything to hide. Brother, are you scared enough yet? How badly do you really want this? Because I can tell you this much, any man who seeks and craves the freedom that I've been able to experience must first realize the ramifications of the decisions that he's made and see and feel the consequences that he has created in his life. If he ever is going to have the chance, because if he doesn't, if it's just for you, if it's just because you feel bad or you're worried about salvation and abstract concepts like that, you won't stick with it at all. But if you are interested in experiencing complete and utter liberation and freedom, and right now you feel your heart beating truly, craving this, and you know in your heart that it's time for you as a father and as a man to step up and lead your family and become the man that they know you can be, then you already know what to do. All you have to do is stop watching this video, click on the button below, go fill out the application, and be as honest and true as you can. And we'll hop on the phone in the next 48 hours or so. I can tell you right now that conversation alone will be life-changing. It will give you some perspective and some clarity on how you can move forward. And if in the middle of that conversation you and I feel like it's a fit, I'll invite you to work with me over the next 3 months, so that I can get you started on your path and give you the tools to keep moving on your life to freedom. And at the same time, I will be there as a personal guide to help you make sense of the chaos that you have been experiencing in this dark night. The stuff that you are numb to, the stuff that you don't even see, because you have not been able to get out of the pit. And see, the only thing that's on the line really isn't some concept of whether or not you're going to go to heaven or hell. Those make us feel bad, but they don't move us to action very often. The only thing that's really on the line is where are you going to be for the next 3 or 4 years as your kids keep growing? Are you going to miss that? Are you going to miss that experience of connection and leadership and deep bond with your family? There's no price I wouldn't pay to be able to live with my family. And if you really believe that families are eternal, then I'd say, brother, it's time to step up and make a change. And all you have to do is click on the button below and fill out the application now.